Hello everyone. Today I will be sharing my thoughts on a short story by Harlan Ellison, which is called Repent, Harlequin Said the Ticktockman. Yeah, quite a name. And stick around because this is kind of a weird one. It was published in 1965 and it actually got both Hugo and Nebula awards, and if that wasn't enough, it also got a Prometheus Hall of Fame award. Yeah, which is kind of impressive. Nevertheless, it's kind of a strange story, to be completely honest with you, and it's definitely a strange choice for this kind of hype, in my opinion, and I will be talking about why I think this is the case in just a little bit. The book already reads in maybe about 20 minutes or so, but anyway, let me briefly describe what's going on in there. So, the story is set in a dystopian future, where time is strictly regulated by the government. And when people are late for something, the government can actually cut their lifespan by the time that they were late and even end a life completely. The story follows a rebellious and kind of a whimsical character called Harlequin, who disrupts this highly regulated society. And that's our protagonist, who, by the way, I didn't like very much because, quite frankly, I'm not a fan of this kind of chaotic personalities. But that's just me, right? And on the other side of things is the Ticktockman, who is an authoritarian figure who is actually in charge from the government to control this highly regulated society and punish people for being late. He is trying to find out who the hell is Harlequin and, punish him for his mischiefs and disruptions. Eventually, the Ticktockman catches the Harlequin and fixes him. The old school Orwellian 1984 kind of way. And in the end, there's this punchline by the Ticktockman that I will discuss specifically a little later. The narrative explores themes of individualism, conformity, and consequences if you live in a highly regulated society but are actually rebelling against it. The story is so short that I kind of have to talk a little bit about the author, but actually it's quite helpful to get some background on, where he's coming from and why he probably wrote this book. Ellison was quite a peculiar figure who was really well known for his advocacy of individualism and resistance to regimes of any kinds, which are actually the central themes of many of his works, including this one. And even on a personal level, he was confrontational by nature. He was battling against censorship, and I guess this could have shaped the personality of Harlequin, who was also a nonconformist in his society. Some examples of that. Ellison famously wrote an original screenplay for the Star Trek episode titled The City on the Edge of Forever. However, the producers decided to change something in his script, and Ellison was quite vocal about how dissatisfied he was with that decision. In the 1970s, Ellison filed a lawsuit against ABC television, claiming that their TV series, The $6 Million Man, had used elements of his short story, Soldier. The lawsuit was settled out of court, but again, it proved that Ellison was really protective about his work, and he was not going to be played with. Ellison was also involved in civil rights causes, and this topic can also be seen throughout his work. For example, Ellison served as the editor for Dangerous Visions in 1967, and this is pretty much a groundbreaking science fiction anthology, which was focusing in different civil rights causes and political issues, including racial inequity. And in general, Ellison was known for making public statements on different social inequalities and prejudices. So overall, I think while we can say that Repent, Harlequin Said the Ticktockman is a work of fiction, it represents broader concerns of the author on the questions of conformity, individuality, freedom, and censorship. But it's also worth mentioning that he was famously late for everything himself in real life. As I mentioned before, this book received a Hugo Award in 1966, which means that Ellison managed to beat Paul Anderson, Fritz Leiber, Roger Zelazny, and Philip Jose Farmer as competition. Now, to be honest, I don't know the last name, but all the others are exceptional authors. And let's talk about why this could happen. On the surface, this book shows the readers some dystopian future where oppressive government controls every minute of every person's life using some kind of machinery in their chests. In terms of idea, I think Ellison does a really good job. The idea sounds fresh, quite scary to be honest, but I don't think that Ellison does a good job in selling this idea to the reader. I think the whole point of dystopian books is that they are scary believable, right? So take Black Mirror, for example. It is not true now, but we can imagine that in the future, maybe in the nearest future, with the development of AI, robotics, computer science, and all of that, we kind of believe that this could possibly be one of the outcomes of, how the society develops in the future. And in literature, Orwell, Zamyatin, Huxley, these gentlemen immediately come to mind because they could really paint a terrifying picture of a dystopia. But Ellison doesn't do the job as well, in my opinion. In this regard, the premise of the book is that people are late, and this is such a big deal now that in the future, it's going to allow for developing machinery that could stop you from being late by actually killing you. Well, it doesn't sound believable to me because there are really no signs that this is the kind of a path or trajectory where the society is going from now until this dystopian future. I just don't see the roots of this scary future in the present moment, which is why it doesn't really work on me that way, the way it was supposed to be working. So to me, this probably is not the whole point of the book. We have to dig deeper. The second major topic of the book is civil disobedience. The Harlequin throws tantrums, acts out, and pretty much does everything to show that he is disagreeing with the regime. And in this world, if he were to, let's say, I don't know, talk to the Ticktockman and tell him directly what he thinks about this machine, he would probably be just quietly neutralized. So this is not the way to go about it. So attracting attention seems to be like a better choice, because this way he could potentially make other people rise up and show their disobedience as well. A big maybe, as we know, because in the end, yes, Harlequin caused some scheduling problems, but Ellison didn't write and didn't tell us about any support from the public at all. So unfortunately, the Harlequin gets brainwashed for nothing. Quite an ending, a very depressing one, and it looks as if Ellison is also disappointed by the whole topic of civil disobedience. Or is he? And this leads us to the final punchline of the book. In the final lines of the book, when the Harlequin gives his "I'm sorry for everything, now I'm a changed man" kind of speech, one of the clerks tells the Ticktockman that he's late somewhere by 3 minutes, to which the Ticktockman replies that this is nonsense and that the clerk needs to check his watch. In my opinion, this means that not only all of the social disobedience attempts by the Harlequin were in vain, it also means that the problem the whole time was not in the fact that the government can control people's lives, but in corruption. So it means that it was always okay to be late if you are high enough in the ranks, and absolutely forbidden if you are an average Joe. So I think that the main message of Ellison is this: the rules are made by the strongest, but they can also be bent in favor of the strongest. And in this regard, it is perfectly valid in the present, it has been valid in the past, and it probably will be in the future. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe as usual, and thank you for watching.